Hey guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be doing another recent reads, and let me just be honest, my reading has been all over the place. I'm not going to say that I've been in a reading slump, but I have not really been reading as much as I normally do. Anytime that I have picked up a book, I probably have gotten through maybe a chapter or two before I've put it down and have just done something else. Here recently, within like the last week or so, I have been getting back into my groove of reading the amount I normally do. I have just been really enjoying these last few books that I picked up. So maybe that was my problem. With these books that I'm going to be talking about today, maybe I just wasn't really in the mood for them, and that's why I just couldn't get through them as fast as I normally do. But I guess that's neither here nor there. So normally I would start off with my lowest rated and work my way up to my highest rated, but we're gonna do things a little differently today. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So the first two books that I want to talk about are some arcs that I recently read. One of them I DNF'd, the other one I thought was fine. So starting with the one that I DNF'd, we have Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes. This is a adult sci-fi horror, and I was really excited to pick this up from NetGalley because I have been wanting to check out something from this author for a while. I forget the name of their first book, but that first book that they had, it was really popular and a lot of people seem to enjoy it. I, of course, have not read that one yet. Based off of the hype for that book, I have been wanting to check out something from this author, but unfortunately, this was probably not a good place to start for me. So I only made it about 10% of the way in. I don't really remember much of what happened, and not a lot happened in 10%. So from what I can recall, there was this girl, she was on a different planet and she was on the run. I don't remember, or I don't even think I got to the point where we found out why she was on the run or what was the reason. But like I said, I only made it 10% in, and the 10% that I did read, it took days for me to get through that. Something about the writing was not pulling me into the story the way that I wanted it to, and so I just decided to put that one down. But I'm pretty sure I will try and check out something else from this author. So the other arc that I read that I recently finished, it is Just Our Luck by Denise Williams. This is a adult romance, and I also received this arc from NetGalley. And in this one, we're following our two main characters. So we have Kyron, and he is taking a break from med school. Him and his sister are helping their elderly grandfather run his donut shop. And so we are then following our character Sybil. And Sybil is kind of like down on her luck right now. She recently lost her job. She is living at home with her parents, and she's just trying to figure it out. So one night at the donut shop, Kyron and Sybil meet for the first time, and during that meeting for the first time, they end up having a sexual encounter. After that, Kyron has not seen her again. But the next day, he goes into the office where this encounter took place, and he finds that Sybil left him a note on the back of a lottery ticket. Come to find out, that was a winning lottery ticket for $250 million, I believe. And so Kyron and his sister come up with this plan to make this social media post asking for Sybil to come back to the donut shop so that he can see her again and so that she can claim this lottery ticket. And she does just that. While she's there, they kind of come up with this plan to fake date because she needs a date to her sister's wedding, and she kind of wants to make a good impression on her family using him. And in exchange, she was going to give him some money so that he can get out of some financial debt that he's in and possibly return back to med school. And the story kind of takes off from there. I thought the overall story was fine. Their romance to me was fine. I feel like I kind of wanted a little bit more from it. I did really enjoy the characters because they were so different from each other. Kyron is one of those people that always has a plan, always knows what his next step is, always knows what he is going to be doing next. Whereas Sybil is all over the place. She doesn't know which way is up sometimes. She makes these really rash decisions. She doesn't think about the consequences of her decisions. And she kind of just goes with the flow, which is something that her parents, especially her mother, does not necessarily agree with. So I really enjoyed that they were so different from each other. However, there were a couple of things that I did not like about this. One was like their fake dating trope. I don't like a good fake dating trope. What I'm starting to realize I see a lot of in these romance books is that people are fake dating because they need a date to a wedding. I did not realize how important it was for people to have a date for a wedding. And I just wish that if we're going to use the fake dating trope, that we get a little bit more creative. Or maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I need to find books that use that trope a little bit better. I don't know, but it seems like that has been a theme anytime that trope is being used. I also thought that it was funny that nobody really was excited about the amount of money that Sybil won. $250 million is life-changing money, and nobody like batted an eye. Like, nobody said anything. They were doing a lot of media press for reasons, and it was like nobody ever talked about how much money she won. There wasn't like a lot of conversation really about what she was gonna do with the money. There was a little bit, but not to the extent of a conversation I feel like somebody would have if they won $250 million. Like, I feel like I would be talking about that a lot, and that just wasn't brought up enough for me. But overall, I thought this story was fine. I gave it 3 stars. I have read a lot of this author's stories, and this was one of my most anticipated reads. Was not my favorite read by her, but if this book sounds good to you, this book has already been released, so you should check it out. The next book that I want to talk about is a book that I listened to, and that is The Next Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. So I recently read The Last Mrs. Parrish by this author, and I have a video talking about that book along with The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. So if you guys want to check out that video, I will have that link down below for you. But this is the sequel to that first book. This is a adult mystery. And if you have not read or heard about The Last Mrs. Parrish, that book follows this young woman, Amber. She is looking for a come up. Basically, she's looking for some wealthy man to marry and to take care of her. And so she sets her sight on this woman, Daphne's husband, Jackson. And so Amber gets really close with Daphne and Daphne's family, especially Jackson. And then she kind of has this plan on how she plans to take Jackson away from Daphne. So this book, it follows right after the events of the first book, and we have an introduction of a new character, and we're also following those same 3 main characters from the first book. I gave this one 3 stars. This is a book that I don't think we necessarily needed. I think where the first book left off was fine for me. I wasn't like dying to know what happened to these characters and where these characters were gonna go next. But I wanted to go ahead and pick it up just because it was out there and available. It did take me a little while to get into the story. With that first book, I feel like I was hooked immediately. And with this one, it did take me a little bit longer to get into the story. I will say with that introduction of the new character, it took me several chapters from their POV before I was like hooked. I was actually kind of bored anytime it was their POV. It took a little while for you to realize why they were introduced into the story. Once we got that, it was fine. I think where the story ended up was fine. This was just okay. I don't think we needed it, but if you have read that first book and you are just dying to know what happened to these characters, by all means, check this one out. So the next 2 books that I am going to talk about, these 2 books are from my backlist TBR that I am slowly trying to make my way through this year. I will have that video linked down below in case you are curious about what books I'm trying to read by the end of the year. But both of these are sci-fi books. So first up, we have The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. This is YA sci-fi mystery thriller. And I have had this book on my shelf for a long time, to the fact I actually had to blow some dust off of it when I found it. So in this one, we are following our main character, Romy. And Romy is in space. She's on a spaceship traveling by herself to this new planet. So Earth is trying to colonize another planet that they're naming Earth 2. And so she was actually born in space. Her parents unfortunately died, and so that is why she is by herself. So while she's been up there, she has been communicating with a therapist here on Earth at NASA. She watches a lot of like reality TV. She does fan fiction for a TV show that she really loves. And so basically she has just been trying to entertain herself while she is traveling to Earth 2. She gets this communication one day that there is another spaceship that is headed straight to her that is going to go with her to Earth 2. And so now Romy has something to look forward to, and there is a guy that is on that particular spaceship, and so they start communicating back and forth. One day, Romy gets a communication from Earth that the communications with Earth are about to stop, and something is happening down there. And so the story kind of takes off from there. I actually enjoyed this. I gave it 3 stars. It's by all means not a new favorite, but I was entertained. I did like that this included a lot of like mixed media, her correspondences with the people on Earth, her correspondence with the guy on this other ship. We also get some of her fanfic that she has been writing. I liked the mystery because there is a reason why this guy has been sent to join her on this mission. There's actually a lot of action. I like that we got the backstory into her parents and to the other astronauts that were on this mission as well. It was just entertaining. Like I said, not a new favorite or anything, but I'm happy that I finally read this. And then that other sci-fi book that was on my backlist TBR, we have The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. This is another one that I have had on my shelf for a long time, and I was really excited when I first picked this up, and I have no idea why I put it off for so long. So this is another sci-fi mystery. It's just adult. And so in this one, we are following this woman, Evelyn. And she has been recently divorced from her husband, and her husband actually made a clone of her, and I'm pretty sure he married that clone, and that clone is Martine. And so of course, Evelyn feels a certain way about it. I think I would too. You didn't want me, but you want the clone? Okay. So Evelyn one day gets a call from Martine, and Martine is distraught. And she is saying that she needs her help with this man. And so Evelyn ends up going to Martine and tries to help her with the situation with the husband. And so the story kind of takes off from there. This is another one I gave 3 stars. And there's a couple of things that kind of like happened in it that has prevented me from rating this higher than I would like to. The first one is like the audiobook narration because I did listen to this on audio. Now, granted, I could have stopped listening to it on audio and just read it physically, but at the time, there just wasn't an option. So the person that narrates this story, she is very, very monotone. And it just kind of, it was like to the point you didn't want to listen to this if you were tired because you were probably going to go to sleep. Her voice just did not have any inflection to it. There were a few scenes where the narrator would get like a little excited, but they were few and far in between. I also thought this was slower paced than I was expecting. Not necessarily in a bad way. I think I just wanted more to happen, if that makes sense. I did, however, really enjoy our main character, Evelyn, talking about the clone and how like clones are made and like the science behind it, because she is the one that was actually, she is a doctor and she does a lot of research into clones. And so I liked actually hearing about that and how they were made and how kind of like Martine came to be. And I also kind of liked getting Evelyn's feelings on Martine and how she feels about her husband like leaving her for a clone of herself. That's wild. And I also kind of liked us hearing about Martine's side of things and how she feels once she realizes like why she was created. So there's a lot more going on, but at the center of this, there is a mystery going on with the husband, which I enjoyed. Like I said, I just wish the audiobook narration was a little bit better, and I wish this was just faster paced than what it was. So the next thing that I want to talk about is our good old girl, Karen Slaughter. So this is the second book in the Grant County series. This is Kisscut. This is a adult mystery thriller. And so I have read several books by Karen Slaughter, but I wanted to go back and start from the beginning. So that meant starting with her Grant County series. And I've been honestly having a good time. So in this, we are following the main characters that we followed from her first book. And so we're following Sarah, who is a pediatrician, but she works as a medical examiner on the side. And then we're following her ex-husband, Jeffrey, who is the chief of police. And then we're following one of his detectives, Lena. So at the beginning of the story, everybody is at a skating rink for some sort of party, and this is like a really small town. And so Jeffrey goes there because him and Sarah are like trying to rekindle their relationship. And so when he's there, out in the parking lot, there is a lot of commotion going on, and he comes across this young girl. When I say she's young, she's like 11, 12, 13-ish. And she is pointing a gun at another boy and saying that she is going to kill him. And so Jeffrey ends up trying to intervene. There's a situation that happened, somebody dies, and then the story kind of takes off from there. I don't want to say more than that just because I don't want to spoil it, but this book is really dark. That is no surprise coming from Karen Slaughter because that's just the type of books that she writes. If this is something that you want to read, or if the Grant County series is a series that you want to start, make sure you look up the trigger warnings because like I said, it really goes there. And I actually enjoyed where this story went. I did not expect the twist that we got at the end and where exactly the story went. There were a couple of things that I was able to pick up on, but the big things that happened at the end, did not see them coming. I do like our main characters that we follow in this story, so I enjoyed following them in this one as well. However, I do think at points the pacing was a little bit slower because there was a situation that happened with one of these characters, Lena, in the first book. And in this second book, we get some recap and her feelings about what happened in that first book. And sometimes I just felt like we were getting more information and insight into that than what I would have wanted. And it just kind of slowed the story down for me. But outside of that, I really enjoyed this and I ended up rating this one 4 stars. Next up, we have Wake Up and Open Your Eyes by Clay McLeod Chapman. This is a adult apocalyptic thriller is what I've been seeing this described as. And I unfortunately had to DNF this. This was one of my most anticipated reads. I tried really hard to make it through, and I got about halfway through before I stopped reading. I got to page 199, part 2. I just couldn't force myself to do it anymore. A lot of people have been really enjoying this one, and then there have been people like me who have not enjoyed this so much. So this might literally just be a hit or miss with people. So this starts off with this guy going to check on his parents. He has noticed something has not been right with his parents for a little while. He noticed in particular that his mom has really been like fixated on the news. Like that's all she watches. And so he had been trying to get in contact with her, and neither her or his father have been answering any of his calls. One day he decides that he's going to go over there and check on his parents like a normal person would. And so when he gets there, something isn't right and he is attacked by his parents. So that happens in part 1. Then in part 2, I'm pretty sure that original character that we were following, we are then following his brother and his brother's wife and one of their sons. And so we're seeing basically how the media has like taken over this family. And so the brother, he is like obsessed with the news. It's called Fax News, which is like a play on Fox News. And then we're following his wife, who was like obsessed with this influencer on Instagram. And then their son is like obsessed with Twitter. And so basically this book is full of social commentary about how people are obsessed with like media to the point that they start neglecting like everyday things, the people around them, and that's like all they're focused on. I thought once we hit part 2, like in the beginning, it was kind of interesting, but it started to become kind of repetitive to me. Some of the scenes were disturbing, and I'm not somebody who is put off by disturbing things at all, but like it was to the point where it just felt like really over the top and unnecessary. And I love social commentary in books. However, I do not like it when I feel like the author is really beating you over the head with their messaging. I like my commentary, especially when it's like commentary like this, to be a little bit more subtle. I want to be able to think and kind of like put the pieces together for myself and wonder what it is the author is really trying to tell us. Whereas in this one, it's very clear. It's very clear what he's trying to say. It's very clear what he wants you to get from the characters, which is fine because obviously people have really been enjoying it. It's just not my favorite way to include social commentary. So for this, like I said, I had to DNF it. I could not force myself to read it anymore. And so that's that. So we are going to end this video on a high note with 2 4-star reads. So first I have Hold You Down by Tracy Brown. This is a adult fiction. Now you guys know that last year I read Brooklyn by this author. Absolutely fell in love with that story. It was one of my top books of last year. So somebody recommended that I pick up Hold You Down next by this author, and I'm so happy that I did. So in this story, it takes place in like the late 1980s heading into early 1990s. And we're following these 2 sisters, Lennox and Mercy, and they're completely different. So Mercy is like the one that likes to have a plan. She likes to follow like the straight and narrow path. She is really wanting to open up her own soul food restaurant, and she is more focused on that and taking care of her son, Judah. However, her sister Lennox, on the other hand, is kind of like the wild child. She is so fixated on making money. And in the late 1980s, early 90s, we are introduced to like crack cocaine. And so Lennox gets wrapped up into helping like cook the crack cocaine. And she is dealing with like some drug dealers. So these sisters are completely different. So tragedy strikes, and then in the second half of the story, we are following the kids of Mercy and Lennox, which is Mercy's son Judah and Lennox's son Dion. This just gave me like those old school vibes, just like Brooklyn did, with like the type of books that I was reading back then, which I really liked. I like the setting of this. It takes place in New York. I like the time period that we were following them in. And this book just, it literally broke my heart in certain places with some things that happened to some of the characters. There were some things that I could see coming and some things that just caught me completely off guard. My emotions was like all over the place while I was reading it, but I had a really good time, and I'm excited to pick up something else from this author. The last book that I have here that I actually recently finished, and this was a gifted copy from the publisher, but we have Needy Little Things by Chanel de Samores. This is a adult mystery thriller. So in this one, we are following our character Soraya. And Soraya is a high school student approaching graduation, and she has this ability to where she can hear the needs of others. So when she's in a room and other people are around, she can hear what people may need. Like if a person is thinking they need an eraser, she'll have an eraser on hand and give it to them. Or if somebody needs some sort of book, she's able to have that book and give it to them. And so with this ability, it comes with some things that are not so great. Like when she's in a room with too many people and she's hearing all of these needs at once, it causes her to have migraines. Lately, she has been wondering if the things people need are actually things that they are gonna put to good use. One day, her and her friends, so her best friend Malcolm, and then their friend Deja, and this new guy that they met, Jude. They all go to this this music festival. And while they're there, she gets a sense that her friend Deja needs something, and then Deja ends up disappearing from this music festival. And then the rest of the story, we are watching Soraya and her friends as they try to figure out what exactly happened to Deja, and Soraya is wondering if her ability will help her find her friend. The main thing that this book is talking about is how people of color, when they go missing, they are not prioritized like other people. And this book talks about that a lot, and that is like the central messaging of the story, which I actually enjoyed because we all know that that is true. I really enjoyed our characters. I enjoyed learning about Soraya and her ability and how her ability has affected her and how she like second guesses whether this is a gift or a curse for her. I like the relationship she has like with her best friend Malcolm, and the reason why they are so close is because his sister went missing like 5 years prior, and so now that their friend Deja is missing, it's bringing up a lot of feelings for the both of them, especially Malcolm. And then I liked her relationship with her little brother. She is really protective over him. He is battling sickle cell. And then she has this strained relationship with her mother who is dealing with depression. And so Soraya has a lot of things going on in her personal life, and now she is trying to find her missing friend. I really liked where the story went. I liked how like the central messaging was incorporated into the overall mystery, and I just liked the conclusion of this story. This was a debut novel by this author, and I can't wait to see what else they come out with next. So that is all that I have for you guys. Please let me know if you have read any of these books and let me know your thoughts down below. But I will see you guys next time. Bye.